Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. So today I want to talk about healing your inner child. Now I'm just going to get the disclaimer out of the way. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a certified life coach, although I do give some pretty good advice. I'm just going to tell you how I did it, or rather how I am doing it, because I think it's quite a process. I don't think you wake up one day and just go, I am healed. Although, wouldn't that be nice? First, let's talk about why you would want to heal your childhood wounds. Why bring up all that past trauma, right? Well, if you don't, it will, quite simply, ruin your life. I've seen people become absolute monsters because they have unhealed childhood wounds that cut so deep and hurt people, basically. So if you don't want to become a monster, then keep watching. Another thing that could happen if you don't heal your childhood wounds is it could make you sick. Some people become monsters and they make everyone else's life miserable. Other people stuff it down into their bodies and it literally can make you ill. Now, I'm not going to get into my whole childhood trauma in this video, but if you have read my memoir, I go into depth about it in case you're wondering. So that's the first link in the description box if you want to check it out. Okay, the number one thing that you must do in order to begin healing your inner child is to accept full responsibility for your life. All of your words and your thoughts and your deeds and your actions have created the reality that you live in. The word abracadabra, like the magic word in Hebrew, literally means, I will create as I speak. So you have to accept responsibility for where you are in your life right now. You're probably thinking, what is she saying? I was an innocent child and this and that happened to me, and I get it. We all have crappy childhoods and yours was probably worse than mine. I don't know. But if you're constantly placing the blame outside of yourself, then you are the victim. And it's very disempowering. You can never make a significant change in your life if you're not taking responsibility for it. So crap happens, but it's up to you as an adult to fix it. The harsh reality is you cannot change anyone or their behavior, only how you react to it. So step up, take responsibility, and empower yourself to make that change, because if you don't, childhood trauma could ruin your life. I know this from experience, so take my word for it. The next thing you're going to want to do is forgive your parents and anyone else who may have abandoned you, tortured you, abused you, or anything like that. You owe it to yourself to forgive them, because if you hold on to the anger and resentment, it can actually hurt you. And I think as parents, we're all just really doing the best that we can, right? Given the circumstances and our own childhood trauma. I mean, just ask my boys. Just kidding. Don't do that. Don't ask them. I have this personal belief that we all make soul contracts before we come down into the physical plane with family members and other people in our lives. And we choose sometimes to have difficulties and challenging situations in order for our soul to learn and grow. It is hard to become a stronger person and evolve if life is just dandy. Where are you going to find your gifts and develop strength and resilience? Something to think about. So, of course, the first step is to find a good therapist. I've had dozens of therapists in my life, some good, some not so good, some just sit there and listen, and that feels like I'm just complaining a lot, and that doesn't help. So find a therapist that can actually give you some actionable things to do, some good advice. They're not just sitting there listening to you bitch and moan. This new therapist that I'm working with also does EMDR therapy. Now, what this is she takes a pencil and she moves it back and forth, and I have to sit completely still and my eyes just follow the pencil. And as my eyes follow the pencil, I talk about a traumatic experience. And I have a bunch of those, so no problem there. So supposedly what EMDR does is it mimics REM sleep. REM stands for rapid eye movement. So when we sleep and our eyes are moving rapidly, that's how our brain processes things from subconscious to conscious. It's kind of deep. I don't really quite understand it, but I've done it a couple of times and so far it helps. So I'll keep you posted on that. Another helpful tool is daily journaling. And when I used to hear about that, I would just roll my eyes. I was like, oh, I don't want to write it down. And it's such personal thoughts, but I have to say that getting it out on paper, there's something about it. It's very healing. And when I wrote my memoir, I realized that just the act of doing that was incredibly healing. It took me like 4 years to even start writing the memoir because the first chapter is about my son Sammy's death, and it was really hard. Every time I edited it or checked it for proofreading, I would just bawl and bawl and bawl. But the more that I did that, the less the intense grief got. And I'm telling you, it was just incredibly healing. So something to think about. You don't have to write a memoir, but write it down. So how do you figure out exactly what needs to be healed? Well, take a look at all your weaknesses, your addictions, your bad habits. For me personally, I had abandonment issues because my mother passed away when I was 1. So I would either run from a potential relationship or unintentionally sabotage it. And I did this over and over again until I noticed the pattern and corrected it, or working on correcting it. The main thing here is to be completely honest with yourself. You don't have to tell your therapist everything if you don't want to. You don't have to write it down in a journal if you're afraid someone's going to read it or if it's just too personal. You can write it down in a letter and burn it. But the key is you have to be honest with yourself. If you're lying to yourself and deceiving yourself, then you're never going to be able to fix your life or heal those wounds. Spending a lot of time in solitude and meditation has helped me personally go within and really examine everything that I need to heal within myself. It's really hard to get in touch with yourself when you're constantly surrounded by people and their opinions are like, well, you should do this and you should do that. Well, it's like, shut up. Only you know what your issues are and what's best for you. So stop listening to what everyone else has to say, including me. This is your own healing journey, and just take that first step. The most revealing thing that will shed some light on your wounds that need to be healed is what triggers you. Why are you mad? Why are you angry? Why are you jealous? If you examine those triggers and think back to childhood, you're going to make a lot of progress, I promise you. Look, introspection and self-reflection isn't fun, and that's why most people don't do it. But you owe it to yourself to become a mature adult and take responsibility for your own life. You can't blame what happened to you in childhood forever. So just do what I'm doing. Take it one day at a time. You don't have to rush. This is not a race, okay? This is a healing journey. And the whole point of a journey is that it's a long, drawn-out process. But just start. Just begin today. The one thing that has helped me the most on my healing journey is my daily gratitude practice. Even after my son Sammy died, I was like, God, I'm just going to take a little break from this just for a few weeks, because how could I find anything to be grateful for? And literally, I was shown things to be grateful for, which I was a little bit pissed about at first. But if you find that being grateful is hard for you, then try volunteering at a homeless shelter or a soup kitchen. If you have a phone that you're watching me right now on, or a computer, and you have a roof over your head and you're not starving, then you are blessed. Don't forget that. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and please let me know in the comments how your healing journey is going and anything that you've done that's worked, because I'd love to hear it. And don't forget to like and subscribe and share. Bye. Thanks for stopping by and visiting my world. See you next time.